episode number 5 of the ISPC Tailboard Talks podcast. This week's episode is Becoming a Leader. I'm your host, Mark Forster. Along with me is my co-host, Jerry Havens. How you doing today, Jerry?
I am great, man. It's great to be back here.
All right, today we got a couple things to cover here first off, and then we're going to get to a very special guest today that I'm looking very forward to having a conversation with. Our guest today is Mr. Curtis Bradley, and so we'll get to him shortly. Look forward to having a good conversation with Curtis. So,
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to him. Someone that's not only a colleague, but someone that I classify as a friend as well. Curtis, I've known Curtis 4 years now, something like that, and thoroughly enjoy the company every time we get to hang out with him. So, and I'm not just saying that because he can hear us. I'll tell that, I'll say that whenever. Yeah. But first things first, man, we got to thank our sponsors. Our sponsor for this one is Beer Meters. Beer Meters is a USA-made, family-operated manufacturer for almost 40 years. Beer Meters, the absolute highest quality, Lyman-proven, safe, dependable, accurate voltage and phasing meters, secondary testers, cable identification tools, ground testers, high pot tools, custom temporary protective grounds jumpers, and pole guards. If you use it in this industry, chances are they probably make it. Give them a call, Beer Meters, or find them online, beermeters.com. And another group of people that is absolutely phenomenal to hang out with, Brett and all those guys. Their shop is great. Their company's great. Their attitude is great, and their culture is great. I'm excited to have them on board. Beer Meters, beermeters.com, BIERER.
Thanks, Jerry. Always good to talk about beer, their excellent equipment, and good people. So, okay. So let's talk today. Our Tailboard Talk topic, kind of staying in line with our Becoming a Leader here, is a leader's responsibility around job briefings, right? So we start every job with a job briefing. Tailboard, tailgate, tailbox, whatever you want to call it. We need to start our jobs with those to make sure that we have everybody on the same page. Now, we have talked in the past on previous episodes about, let's say, the quality or lack thereof of the job briefings that we see out in the field on a daily basis. So, I think the first thing, in my opinion, that a leader is responsible for is setting expectations, right, with his team, with his crews, around what he expects that job briefing to contain and look like, right? We talked a couple episodes ago about what OSHA's requirements for the job briefing are. And I think those are kind of set in stone, and everybody kind of understands those. But, we also talked in that same episode, Jerry, about, photocopying tailboards, right? And
the check boxes.
The check boxes, and one tailboard covers everything for the day, and so on and so on. We can go down this rabbit trail all day long, I believe. But
you're running a week's worth of pole installations. You're going to run copies of the tailboard, so it'll save you time.
That's right. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not saving you any time, and we have talked about that. So I think, first thing, obviously, setting expectations about what you expect to see in your crew's job briefings. And then I believe the second thing is, how do you verify as a leader that you're getting what you asked for, right? And so there comes a time when we need to either visit those tailboards and or audit those tailboards, right? Or job briefings to make sure that the guys are doing what you expect them to do when it comes to job briefing. I've worked for companies that required auditing of tailboards. So, every tailboard that got done came across the supervisor's desk, and that supervisor had the opportunity to review those tailboards, audit those tailboards, and make sure that his expectations were being met. And then I think the third piece is the feedback, right? You can audit all you want, but if you're not correcting problems, how do you move forward and get quality tailboards being done that are going to help your crews, identify hazards and remain safe and get jobs successfully done? So I think those are a couple of the main keys to ensuring that we're getting quality tailboards done from a leader's perspective in the field.
Now, Mark, with regards to expectations, the
Mm-hmm.
expectations of as a leader, the expectations, I think that plays a large, or that comes from a large part of the culture that you're creating. In so not only as a supervisor, your leader, your expectations as a supervisor for those tailboards, your expectations as a crew foreman and as a lead lineman and as a uh, even an apprentice lineman or groundman. What are your expectations? What do you expect to get from that tailboard or from that meeting? And it trickles down, but it also flows upward as well. You have to have that culture that creates that set of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are going to do it this way, and you have to have the freedom as someone that's not a leader to say, this is what I expect from this tailboard. I'm not getting what I need. I don't feel that this is an adequate tailboard without any repercussions. I mean, that's people don't speak up because they fear repercussions. If you eliminate that aspect of it, then you'll get a lot more feedback and a lot more. So your expectations are molded by your culture. Does that make sense? Is that making?
Yeah, I think, obviously a lot of times when we say the word leader, right, everybody automatically thinks of, okay, I'm a supervisor, I'm a manager, I'm a director, I'm a vice president, right? I got to have that title to be a leader. And I disagree. I think, an apprentice can be a leader now in certain ways, right? In my opinion, if that apprentice has the wherewithal to speak up and say, hey, I'm not getting out of this tailboard what I need, that's being a leader, right? He's telling his other coworkers and people he's working with that this just isn't cutting it for me, right? And so I think that's the first thing. And then second, to your culture statement, Jerry, absolutely. You need to have the right culture in an organization that people feel comfortable speaking up when they're not getting what they need to satisfy their, whether it's the tailboard, whether it's their job, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a company culture. It can be a
That's
crew
correct.
culture.
Absolutely.
So you can create that little bubble of, this is what's expected, and everybody has that voice and those expectations within a crew. It doesn't have to be company wide. You as a leader, and that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we are teaching those that are coming into this industry, is that they have the chance to make a change if they don't like what they're seeing. If they don't like, you control your destiny. You control the people with you as well, their destiny. Yep. You have the opportunity and the right to speak up if something is not right, and stop something. We talked, I think it was last episode or maybe episode before, about the stop work authority and the stigma around that people don't do it. But to me it's so essential, especially in this industry, to bring a halt to something immediately, and to have that ability to do so, and the people next to you and with you to for them to trust each other enough to go, all right, they're seeing something I'm not. So again,
the culture on a crew can make you or break you, right? And I'm sure we've all seen it out there. It only takes one bad apple, right, to upset the apple cart, and bad things can happen. And again, that will shut down those, let's call them less experienced people, right, that may not have the gumption to stand up and say, listen, this just isn't right. Couldn't agree more.
And then auditing and job briefings, I think that personally, I think that auditing needs to happen a lot more than it often does. You're turning in paperwork daily, but I like the digital side of things, because the documents now are living documents. They're active and real-time documents. So a supervisor can audit the job briefing immediately. They can go in at any time throughout the workday and audit instead of waiting for the end of the day, or, God forbid, end of the week. And then that feedback also becomes a lot quicker text, email, radio call on that. Like, hey man, this is what I need to see. We're not doing this. What happened with this kind of thing. So the incorporation of technology in the job briefings or the tailboards to me is playing a huge part in creating that, helping the leaders take that responsibility and creating those expectations, or managing the expectations, I guess you would say. Let me do the beer meters plug real quick, and then we'll talk to Curtis. Beer meters USA. Oh, this is cool. Beer has a utility support assistance. Okay, it's a one-of-a-kind, no-cost service to the electric utility industry. It includes professional customer service, technical support, repairs and calibration, live line conferencing, on-site field training, speaking at tool or work methods committee meetings, and safety conferences and seminars. And they do it all, man. He'll bring the trailer and speak and show you how to use it and show you all the tools and stuff. And they have an exclusive 30-day trial of all their tools. So give them a call, beermeters.com, BIERER meters.com, or you can email them customer_service@beermeters.com, or even better, give them a call, 803-786-4839. That's 803-786-4839. Now, let's talk. I got my copy. Okay. I got my copy of Curtis's book right here.
So the time we all been waiting for. Our guest today on the ISBC Tailboard Talks podcast is none other than Mr. Curtis Bradley. So just a little about Curtis. He's the VP of Safety, Quality, and Training for the Desoto Group. He's also founder of Premier Lineman Consulting. And last but not least, Curtis is also the author of a book called Selected to Lead, a Foreman's Guide to Success. If you haven't had a chance to pick that book up, you're going to want to do so. It's a great read. So, Curtis, welcome. Pleasure having you on the podcast. How you doing today?
Doing great, brother. I appreciate the opportunity and glad to be here, man.
Awesome.
I got to give props though, man. Curtis just spoke at our recent TD Trainers Conference in San Antonio. And if you missed the opportunity to see his thing, you missed something special. Everybody came out of there excited and jazzed and stoked to be a part of it. They took something away. You even got a couple of speaking gigs out of it too, or at least invitations to come visit. So that doesn't happen often, do that. You did something special, Curtis. So I think you got a good message.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the platform and the opportunity, right? Man, somewhat of a dream come true. Been prepping for this for a long time to be able to get to this level and be able to share in a very effective way and not talk at people, but talk with them, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Awesome.
So how did you get started, Curtis? Let's start there. Let's start from the beginning. Obviously, you weren't born a lineman.
No.
You weren't born in this industry. Let's talk about how you got started and how you got to where you are today. And then I'll keep my mouth shut because that's all Mark's purview.
No, man. No, it's all good. Look, so I kind of bring it back from the beginning because I think it's always important to kind of understand where a person comes from and their upbringing and some of the things they've been exposed to. So was born and raised in a little small town called Pachuta, Mississippi, kind of the area where you got to pump sunshine into. So went to Quitman High School. There is where I met my wife. We've been married for 19 years. So coming up, it was like everywhere, like most people, they have challenges, right? So come from a split home, played around in school, didn't really take things serious, and graduated, and then that thing called life, it came up and it popped me right in the nose. And so my wife, now of 19 years, we found out we was having a little baby boy. So we was, babies having babies. And so I knew then that the odds was against me, right? Statistically, it's not a good result. So we decided we was going to kind of double down and make sure that we do everything possible to have a great life. So we enrolled in community college, local community college, Meridian Community College. Got there very excited, and man, I failed just about every class. I got on time probation. And the reason why is because I didn't have steady habits or any steady skills. All that playing around in high school really caught up with me. And so I was really in a depressed place. I can remember sitting in front of the library, sitting on a bench, actually crying because I didn't know what I wanted to do next. People who don't have anything planned usually wind up at the unfortunately the chicken factories, or like me at the current time, pushing buggies at Lowe's. So as I was walking out, the little glass doors had, back then, they would post all the new enrollment for the programs, and I saw one that caught my eye, said industrial maintenance. And so something just in me just kind of spoke to me, and I just feel like it was a good Lord above. He said, go talk to your advisor. Because, man, I was fixing to get kicked out of the community college. And I went and spoke to my advisor, told her, my situation, what I was trying to do, apologized for wasting time and resources and all those things. And she was able to get me into this program. When I got into this program, it literally changed my way of thinking and changed pretty much my lifestyle, because I was finally at a time in my life where I had another man saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and it was my instructor. And so he was a great instructor. He was very to the point. He was a real world type of guy. He taught me a lot of skills. And but for, just to be honest, I come from an environment where it just wasn't a lot of, male leaders, right? And it's just what it was. A lot of people grow up and it's just not a lot of male presence, or if it is a male presence, it's just not one to really take note from. So he saw something that I didn't. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And I remember one day he told me, he said, "Curtis, you stop being so daggum scared, you do the work." And that really kind of shook me, right? Because nobody never really gave me that feedback. And then I started adjusting. I started doing what he told me to do. And he told me, he said, "Curtis, one day you make the power company a very good employee. You need to go, try to get on with the power company." And at that time, the only thing I know about the power company was two things, right? That's where, Mama had to go and ask for an extension. And if you couldn't get an extension, they'd come out there and cut your lights off, right? So that's the only thing I ever knew about this industry as a whole. So while I was pushing buggies at Lowe's, I created a plan to say, everybody that I see that comes in with a power company shirt, I'm going to go up and introduce myself. And I did that, got a hold to the foreman. The foreman was very gracious to have a conversation with me. And he made me a deal. He said, "Hey, you're a little bit too young to start working at the power company," because at that time I was 19. And he said, "If you come up here and speak to me, pretty much once a month or every other month, we'll see what we can do." And so religiously, I went up there, once a month, every other month, told him what I was doing, told him about my goals, begging him to let me come and cut the grass or wash the windows or whatever, and to give me an opportunity. I did not still know what I was getting myself into, but I knew that I had a man tell me that I needed to do that. And so I was doing it, right? That was the first time I really had that type of guidance. And so that's what I did. And make a long story short, I was awarded a job at Mississippi Power in the Meridian Division. My start date was August 29th, 2005. And so that's a very special day and a very sad day, because if I'm not mistaken, that's the day around where Katrina hit. And so Katrina hit that was my start day. So I was not able to start. All the communications was out. Everything was wiped out everywhere, Mississippi and their coastline, especially New Orleans. And so I had a job, but I didn't have a job. So finally got a call like 2 or 3 weeks later and said, "Hey, you don't have a job because everything's wiped out, but we can bring you in as a temp if you're still interested. And we don't know when that's going to last." And I said, "I'm going to take this opportunity." And that's kind of how my career started. Started out with overhead and underground distribution, made lineman, stayed out there for 10 and a half years, did everything from hot work to installing three-phase transformers, CT meters, went on a bunch of storms, after hours setting meters, trouble truck, all that good stuff. And I really want to credit, Southern Company Mississippi Power, because they really do go above and beyond with giving employees the leadership skills, the training, and the things that they need to really develop leaders. A lot of people, I kind of don't want to give them their flowers, even though I'm not there, obviously. But they really do a great job with trying to develop people. And I just want to, just kind of recognize them on that, because they really helped my career out tremendously and gave me the foundation that I needed to be successful here in the power line industry. And I know a lot of companies wouldn't do that, but they do an exceptional job with that. And I feel like they still do, but I know it was very, very instrumental in my life. Wanted to go and learn a little bit something different, so got into substations as a apprentice substation electrician for the latter 2.5 years. So total did about 13 and a half years in the industry. Then I wanted to start doing something a little bit different. Wanted to give back. I started to have a burning desire to teach. And at that time, I didn't have my degree or anything like that. So the local community college was looking for a lineman instructor. I went and talked to them. They awarded me the job. That was 5 years ago. Since then, I've been able to get my associate's, my bachelor's degrees in OSHA, got cups. I'm currently still working, so I work on the weekends as a lineman instructor at the local community college. Built 3 of them. Well, I built 2, and I've consulted with 1 here in Central Mississippi. And I've kind of been around the industry, building training programs and things like that on the on the contractor side. And so now I've just been blessed with an opportunity to work at a great company called Desoto Group, based out of Claremont, Florida. So they give me a tremendous opportunity to showcase my skills. And the most important piece is let Curtis be Curtis. So say all that to say, it doesn't matter where you come from, it only matters where you're going. Because I remember in a book, in a good book, it was a little baby that was born in a manger. So I can only imagine how that thing smelled when he was born, and all the amazing things that he did through his course. So I just kind of throw that out there.
So how important is it, Curtis? I think one thing you touched on that I want to expand on a little bit is how important it is for, whether you want to call it giving back, whether you want to call it mentorship, whether you want to call it taking somebody under your wing, whatever you want to refer to it at, how important is it that that happens throughout an organization, right? Not only from a leader standpoint, right? You kind of had, I would call it more of a, what we call a typical leader, right? A foreman type individual that kind of gave you your break. But I've seen it as a past supervisor, and I've kind of taken a kind of similar path as you, as worker, supervisor, wanted to give back, went into training, so on and so forth. But, how important is it to have those people in your life that, give you those attaboys, give you that extra, poke in the rear end to get up and go and not be afraid to take chances and move yourself in a positive direction. How important is that in an organization, especially like ours?
Yeah, it's very important. It's right up there, in my opinion, with making revenue. That's how important it is. But unfortunately, it's down there considered where, we take out the trash. Mm-hmm. When we don't mentor, right, when we don't have mentorships, when we don't have proper leadership, everybody suffers, especially if it's coming from the top. I said in one of my previous posts, everything starts and ends with leadership. When we don't relay that message and we don't help the ones that we know that truly have that God-gifted ability and potential, we're selling ourselves short. And a lot of reasons why a lot of people don't mentor is because, unfortunately, man, a lot of people are worried about if I teach this person everything I know, I will lose my job. How dare he know more than me because he's younger, this, that, or whatever the case may be. So, you know what? I'm not going to share anything with him because, I need to make it, 5 more years before I retire or whatever the case may be. So we suffer. We really shoot ourselves in the foot. And so for me, kind of listening at one of the guys that I wish I had the opportunity to talk to, Dr. Miles Monroe, I really value leadership and mentorship. And I take pride into training somebody to say, that's my guy. That's the guy that I train. That guy that's running the crew, that guy that's the superintendent, that guy that just took that engineering spot or whatever at the IOU, whatever the case may be, that makes me feel good because that's how we change the culture. And if I can do that with him, 9 times out of 10, he's going to do that for somebody else because you can't never forget where you come from. It's important, man. It's right up there with revenue. It really is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think everything you just touched on, I've seen happen in companies that I work for, and it just always boggled my mind that a guy wouldn't teach a younger person how to do something or how to better do something, right? For the fear of that individual ultimately, taking their work or even worse, taking their job. And I've never seen it happen, right? It's not going to happen. We're just. Yeah. I always looked at it from the aspect of if I teach everybody that's working with me or working for me what I know, that just makes my job and the whole job go that much smoother, right? Because I don't have to stand there every 5 minutes explaining what I want done, right?
Exactly.
They already know. I've taught, and now we work as a cohesive team rather than, hey, what do you want me to do now? What do I do next? How do I do this? I mean, that to me, that just gets old.
Yeah. Well, it's a difficult statement for a lot of people to digest, but servant leadership is about teaching or training the person below you to take your seat. Mm-hmm. It's about this. It's not for me to sit here in the seat for 30 years, man.
That's right.
For me, I'm comfortable enough to know that I'll be okay because it'll be another opportunity out there for me. All right. And I think with leaders, we have to be able to digest that and understand that it all has an expiration, but our job is to not to keep the seat forever. Right. That's just my opinion.
I think that's a culture thing too, though. We've talked about culture a lot. I think that is a culture thing as well, is that I was fortunate enough, and before I got into this industry, I ran a body shop, or I worked in a body shop. Mm-hmm. They saw potential in me, made me an estimator, and then on a very fast track became an assistant manager and a manager, and then GM, and then assistant to the owner. So just very quickly. Now I was young; I was 25 at the time. But I had that prior service military attitude that, look, just show me what to do and I can get it done kind of thing. That culture, I was very fortunate. That culture, the guy that was showing me was not afraid to say, okay, you need to know this because I ain't going to be here all day. He knew this wasn't going to be his last stop. Mm-hmm. But I've seen it so many times that you're right, that people are afraid. They want to sit there, they get comfortable, and they get afraid of change. So change is tough. I am not going to lie. It's difficult, but it's not always bad.
No. And if we don't change, we already know, right? Everything, if we don't evolve, what happened? We go obsolete. Right. Mm-hmm. So you got several companies that we can kind of name off that, that did not evolve. And so you have to, like, leadership is like having that mindset of, as I tell my students all the time, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And so I had a lead lineman or a foreman tell me one time, he said, if you don't like the way it is now, just wait, because I guarantee it's going to change. So, man, it's
probably
exactly.
Tomorrow.
You can start off with the poles loaded to go build in a single phase service. And by the time you get out there, somebody's hit a pole. or a thunder bumper has hit,
Yep.
or somebody has called to get, storm assistance. So now we got to go back and go home and pack. So this industry is always changing, man. It's always changing, and it changes so many times throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the year. If you are somebody who hates change, you are going to struggle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's change is the only constant. So okay, so let's dive a little bit further into this leader thing. And you have a book that just recently came out, Curtis, Selected to Lead. Tell us a little bit about it. What what led you, or what made you want to write a book? And tell us a little bit about without giving away all the juicy details. What kind of what the book's about, and so on.
So for me, I have had the opportunity to realize that if you can start filling gaps, right, throughout the industry, you can start creating a positive change, right, or some type of change. For me, it's always to increase or implement a positive change. So, it's just identifying gaps, working, doing what we're doing. With building power lines is overlooked on the leadership aspect of it. And there's a few companies that I've worked for that wanted me to go in and develop and try to stand up or try to give some type of training surrounding Foreman. And so I wanted to do something that was that had the ability to touch everyone in the industry, everyone. And so that's the purpose of the book. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to write the book, and a personal goal to say that, I left a mark, I left something back so my kids or my grandkids or my great grandkids could possibly see one day and say that was Papa or whoever, whatever they decide to call me. I'm not trying to rush that no time soon, but that's the purpose of it, right? And so the book is developed in a way where it's easy to follow. It's questions and answers. It's talking in the language of line workers. This is not something where it's a corporate book and it's 500 pages and I'm talking to you at a corporate level. No, this is a book where we're having conversations, even though I'm not there, but we're having conversations to identify some of the powerful characteristics of a leader and how you should apply it to your crew setting to make a positive impact and create that culture of change. That's the purpose of it. That's kind of the gist of it. It goes into some personality traits that are very specific to power lines or anybody kind of in the industry. We talk about the differences between the two types of leaders that are usually common in the industry. We talk about communication. We talk about just some basic things with setting up computers and kind of the scenario. So the scenario of the book, and I don't want to give it all away, but it's just what come to me is I wrote a letter to an employee. And so the letter to the employee was pretty much, hey, the foreman just quit. Nobody else wanted to take this opportunity. So, we're making you the foreman. Here's the we're gonna stash the keys in the hidden spot of the truck, which I will not state, where everybody knows where those hidden keys are usually located. And his computer is on the back seat. We're gonna mail you a company credit card and have at it, man. We appreciate you taking the role. And if you need any assistance, call your general foreman. And by the way, he's taking a hunting trip in Alaska, and but we talked to him via text, and he said he'll be available to walk you through anything. And we have the utmost respect for you, and we know that you're going to do extremely well. And that's how I come up with Selected to Lead.
Yeah, it's funny, Curtis, because I think my transition from worker to supervisor or foreman was almost identical, right? One of the foremen retired. Actually, I don't think he retired. He went to another job, took another position. And so two things that struck me as funny. First of all, the guy that was leaving, the foreman that was leaving, came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking my position? I think you'd do well." Kind of caught me off guard because I hadn't really even thought about it. You know what I mean? I was still fairly early in my career. I'd only been a journeyman for maybe 3 years, 3.5 years. So, I'm thinking, I'm not sure I know what I don't know. You know what I mean? But after some conversations with some people and so on, I decided to take the position. And that's essentially how it happened, where I worked. It was like, here's the keys, here's the computer, here's the guys that are working for you. And if you have any questions, give us a shout. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. And this just so happened there was two of us. The crew was still fairly large at that time, back in 2012. And the other foreman was probably a 38, 39-year employee. And so one morning, they just had it set up that kind of the one foreman did all the preparation and getting things ready and getting the jobs laid out and all that. And so that was the individual whose spot I took. And the other supervisor, for lack of a better word, was kind of just there and did what he had to do. So one morning we sat side by side at the same row desk, and he looked over. We'd been there 15, 20 minutes, and I'm there getting stuff ready and getting job packets ready. And he turns around in his chair and he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know if you need any help, just let me know." And I thought, well, you know what, bleep, 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 right? Yeah. And I'm like, I should be saying that to you, not you saying that to me. But that's just unfortunately, that's the mentality in our industry. Not everywhere. By all means, not everywhere. I've seen a lot of good cultures. That same company now has a pretty good culture. There was a senior leader that came in and really made some effort over about a 6 or 8 year period to really change the culture, and things have improved greatly. But then the other one I just quickly wanted to mention was the first time I met my field manager, and we had a one-on-one sit down. We chatted about a couple things, and then he said to me, "What do you need from me?" And I'm thinking, man, that's a loaded question, right? Like, what do you need from me? Like, I kind of almost in the same sense as the foreman said to me earlier, right? It's kind of like, oh, I'm here. If you need anything, come ask me. But other than that, just kind of spread your wings and fly and see what happens. You know what I mean? And so we talked a little earlier about mentorship and what that looks like. And so I guess I want to ask you, and I'll only ask you for one, because I don't want you to give your book and everything else away, but what makes a great leader, right? Like, in my mind, those two individuals in those two examples were in a leadership role. And if anybody should have been asking those questions, I think it should have been me to them, not them to me. So what sets those people that we consider great leaders, not only in our industry, but, in society, period. What sets them apart? What's that, secret or silver bullet that says, this guy just has it?
Servant attitude. It's not about him. Leadership is about serving yourself to others, man. And when you do that, you never have the opportunity to ask the question, right? When you get into that role, is, hey, man, come into the office and let's spend a half a day and let me show you how to do timesheets. Let me make sure you got all your contacts to HR. Let me give you all the forms and make sure when you have to do discipline to your employees, how you can do it the way HR wants it. Hey, man, let me show you do you understand what it means about making margin and making sure that you hit your goals, because we're on T&E or we're on units, hey, man, this is how you have to do an appraisal when it comes about. This is what you need to do for storm duty when it happens. This is how all of these things, as you say, if you've been exposed to, but now since you're at the helm of the ship, it's all in your hands. And so servant leaders make sure that their people, not that report to them, but the people that they work with, have everything that they need to be successful, right? It's that effort piece. It's not you asking a question, right, to say, hey, can you help me? is, hey, man, we're going to schedule this time to make sure that you're good. All right, here's my number. Just like when we get that when we make it to lineman and you run that trouble ticket for the very first time, what does everybody say? Hey, if you run into anything, give me a call, right? But for some reason, that doesn't transfer when we get past that little old hump when it comes into leadership. And like you said, to your point, I want to make it very clear. That's not everywhere. It's not everywhere, right?
Yep.
But in some locations, that's where it's at. And I think it's kind of culturally driven. If that was the way that you was brought up, you don't know any better, because, hey, man, the guy who taught me 20 years ago, they didn't do it, and the people who taught him didn't do it. And so, as we say on a personal level, it gets passed down from generation to generation. But it's up to us to break the generational curse, and that's what it's all about, man. So that's my opinion. Serving, just having that service.
No, that's awesome. So the other thing that I kind of wanted to pull out of your some things you said there a little earlier. So, I think, and I was in this boat too, right? Here's the keys, here's the truck, here's the whatever else, the credit card, and so on. Have at it. So give us some keys that you feel need to happen for that successful transition from supervisor to leader. Because let's face it, you can be the best leader or worker in the world, right? You're the go-to A guy. I had him on my crew. I'm sure, if you've led people in the past, you have that one or maybe two guys that I got to get something done. That's my go-to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that guy's going to be the best leader, right? So what's the key to making that successful transition? Because ultimately, if you want to succeed in a lot of industries, not just ours, the only way to go up is to transition from, let's call it the workforce, into management or into a leadership role. What's the key to making that transition?
I think the keys for me would be, again, so this is what I have tried to show and what I have witnessed with really good leaders. Okay. Approachable, humbleness, accountability, transparency, work ethic. Okay. And I think if you have those characteristics where you're approachable, that you care about your guys, that you go out there and pick up the shovel in the middle of the summer and don't sit in the air conditioner of the truck and crack the windows and say, hey, tighten up, and then roll it back up. I think if you're able to listen with empathy and understand the importance of processes and procedures that are in place of your company, I think that you'll be extremely successful. And then, I always say my most favorite E word is the effort piece. Wanting to do a good job, not for yourself, but for the people that you have been blessed to serve, right? It's a blessing to be able to serve your skills to help other people. And that's what we got to look at it. This thing is not about the individual, right? It's about supporting the people in the field to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful. They can focus on work and they can stay safe. Sometimes we don't have the right blueprint to pull all that together as the leader to be able to do that. So, Curtis, all that sounds good, but how do I implement it, right? And so that implementation is what's so important. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
And if I can interject on that, it's just like it's hard to start that servant attitude.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more it becomes a way of life.
Yes.
So you wake up every day and you go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is, how can I help my people? How can I do this for my people? And it's an effort. I will not lie to you in the least. I mean, I do that just to try to be a decent human being every day, and it gets easier every time you decide to do good. Doing good becomes easier. Just like if you decide to do bad, doing bad becomes easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's like, Jerry, man, it's one of those things that you have to work towards. It don't come easy, like you just mentioned, but it's something that deep down in your heart that you want to do. Like for me, I try to keep like all my bad experiences that I have witnessed. I try to keep them close, and I always told myself if I ever got an opportunity, right, to be any type of leader, I'm gonna be the direct opposite of what I come up from. So man, if you're out there on the crew and you're getting treated like crap every time you turn around, your name is this bad word, that bad word, you can't do nothing, you're an idiot, you're not worth nothing, you're gonna get yourself killed. When that time comes for you to step into that foreman role, I would hope that person would say, you know what, I'm gonna be just the opposite, right? And so it was like the story I heard one time where you had two twins, and their dad was an alcoholic, and then they growed up. And then, somebody walked up to one of the twins and said, man, why are you an alcoholic? And he said, because my dad was an alcoholic. And he asked the other twin, he said, why are you not an alcoholic? And he said, because my dad was an alcoholic. It's all in decisions, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like decisions, we talked about a little bit earlier, man. We don't value the importance of decision making. Like we have an opportunity to be great foremen. We have the opportunity to be great general foremen, superintendents, vice presidents, presidents, and leaders if we make the decision to do so.
Mm-hmm.
You got to buy into it. You can't talk it and not do it, man, because people can't buy into that. So.
Yeah, and if you do right by people, they'll do right by you, right?
Yep.
If you're doing the right thing for your people and leading the right way with your people, it'll come full circle. Your people do right by you as well, and so it's a win-win situation if we can just get everybody on the same page.
That's right.
So.
And
well,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Jerry.
I was saying we're almost at an hour here. I could probably sit here and talk for another hour. So that's the great thing. But
Curtis, where can they get your book? Where can somebody pick up Selected to Lead by Curtis Bradley? Amazon.
The world is technology bound, and so you don't have to go to the bookstore. You can go to Amazon. Go to your Amazon Prime account, punch in Selected to Lead. It should pull up. We have it in paperback and we have it in a hard copy. And,
I've got a hardback right here. I dig the format, man, and I like the way that you have the little notes section under each, notes and thoughts, so you can actually use this. It becomes a tool, not just a book that you read and set aside. So, guys, take a minute, go to Amazon.com, grab Selected to Lead by Curtis Bradley, make that a tool in your toolbox and become a great leader. And Curtis, thank you for hanging out with us today, man. I appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Y'all guys are great. I appreciate, really dig the show and love the music.
Thank you, brother.
Cool. Well,
Before
thanks.
we go,
Curtis, I think, good luck. Can't wait to see your next book as well. Hopefully, that'll be coming out later this year, like you said. Appreciate your time. I know you got a busy schedule, and appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us.
Before we let you go, we got to do one more thing. Beer meters, did you know, and I know that you know this, Mark, and Curtis, you know this, because I believe y'all have both spoken at it, but they have their ECOS, the Electric Culture of Safety. That's a grassroots nationwide safety partnership bringing the electric utility industry together in unity, building a line team. So ECOS partners sharing at no cost to your line crews, sharing their knowledge, their experiences, their expertise. They do these webinars. It's a common goal, man, and it is great. Now over 12,000 partners with monthly lineman safety national webinars with relevant topics, communication, leadership, organization, training, the whole 9 yards. Safety training at beermeters.com or go to electriccultureofsafety.com. electriccultureofsafety.com. Now, thank you to Beer Meters. Thank you, Curtis Bradley. The views and opinions shared in this podcast are the personal viewpoints of the participants and may not necessarily reflect the stance of the Institute for Safety and Powerline Construction or its staff. It is highly advised to consult your company management before implementing any actions or policy changes. Please support the sponsors bringing this content to you and learn more about it. Beermeters.com, electriccultureofsafety.com. Until next time, we'll see y'all.
Thanks all. We'll see you next time. Appreciate you guys.